This is a Breville dual boiler BES 900 XL espresso machine. In this video I'm going to walk through how to change your solenoid valve and adjust your overpressure valve, which sets your brew pressure. If your machine is making funny noises when you're brewing a shot, when you're hitting these three buttons, if you're getting a humming or a crackling noise, almost certainly your solenoid valve is nearing the end of its life. This is about the most common part on this machine to go, in my opinion. Good news is it's quite easy to replace. I'm going to walk through that. You do need to get access under the top cover of the machine. I've got another video, a couple other videos about this machine. One of them is on how to descale it, and in that video I go through how to remove the rear panel and the top cover so that you can access this. I'm not going to cover that again in this video, so please see that video if you need instruction on how to get this far. So our solenoid valve is located right here. Pretty easy to, very easy to get to, in fact. You can remove it by, start off by clipping off this zip tie that holds on the exhaust line. I'll call this the exhaust line. This is where your excess water goes after you brew a shot, or if you're back flushing the machine. The water essentially goes through the solenoid valve, back through this, and into your drip tray. You also need to remove these three lugs. You've got a white one here, you've got the yellow one, and underneath there, the one that you can just see right there, there's a ground. That's the yellow and green. It's the one that's not, doesn't have any heat shrink on it. So remove all three of those, note the order, take those off. Then you've got to pull the four mounting screws out. You can see them right here. There's one and two more in the same spots on the other side there. You can see them both there. You have to come in from an angle with the screwdriver just because this housing of the valve itself is kind of obstructs the screw a little bit, particularly when it's askew, you know, the way this one is put together. So once you've pulled that off, this is what you will see. This is the unit. The three connections I spoke about, white, yellow, ground, that exhaust lug, and where the zip tie was. Underneath, when you get it out, there was a couple, depending on the generation of machine, I noticed online there's a couple different gasket approaches they took. In the early days, I think they had a one-piece gasket that covered the whole bottom. Then they migrated to this and a two gasket solution, which I think is still what they manufacture today. So here you can see once it's installed, you have a little pin protruding through the this white Teflon gasket. I assume that's what it is. Here are the pieces shown separately. So to reassemble this thing, I would put that pin back through this hole, and then I can just pick it up and push it in there, and it will look identical to the other one. Now, when you are putting the new one in, see this is stuck in here pretty well now because it's already been pushed on the machine. But when you're putting the brand new one in, it will not be deformed like this. It will not be compressed into its little recessed hole here. So what you're going to have to do is put the gasket and the pin onto the base where the solenoid valve installs. You're going to want to put those on first and then lower this unit on top. That's the only way to do it. Otherwise, if you try to do it with these two pieces installed in the solenoid valve, as soon as you pick it up like this, the parts are all going to fall out. The worst case there is that you get it all the way over to the top of your machine before you tilt it, and they're just going to fall out, and then you're going to have a nightmare trying to find these little parts in the bottom of your machine. So that's the solenoid valve. That'll solve a lot of problems. As I mentioned earlier, it's the noise issue. As these things degrade, they start to obstruct the flow. They may also leak. You might also get leaking out of your brew head if it's not just simply your brew seal. Your brew seal being this guy right here. So check that first. That's really easy to replace. You don't have to get to the machine at all. You just get in here underneath under the brew head, dig out the screw, and you can get right to this thing. So start there. If you're getting leaking, if that didn't solve it, then next step would be to check out your solenoid valve. You can take them apart and try to clean them, as I mentioned, but I didn't go that far since they're still readily available for about 40 bucks. This is January 2018 when I'm making this video, and for 40 bucks I figured I'd just buy a new one, put it in the machine. Oh yeah, that's a solenoid valve. Now I'll move over to the overpressure valve. There's already information online about this one. I'll go through this fairly quickly because there's good videos and photos that other people have already done on this. This assembly right here sets your brew pressure. So it comes right off the top. of your main pump. So you got two pumps you can see there. You got the pump down here for the steam boiler and your main brew pump right here that it gets regulated by this OPV, this overpressure valve, regulates the pressure coming through this line, gets preheated through your steam boiler, goes into your brew boiler, and ultimately through your solenoid valve and comes out of your portafilter. If your pressure is too high or too low, problem may be your pump, hopefully not. Hopefully you can correct the issue by simply adjusting your OPV. You're also going to want to check for leaks within the machine. If you have low pressure, there are ample opportunities within this machine for there to be a leak. In fact, I had one on my machine. I had this connection right here leaking badly. I'll cover that in another video, just how these are all gasketed and sealed. I've gone through the pain of kind of figuring that out and buying the replacement parts, so I have spares. I'll walk through the differences and just what to look for, and I'll do that in a separate video. Coming back to the OPV, to adjust this, first thing you're going to do is remove this hose clamp. Squeeze that together, slide it down, wiggle the hose off very carefully. This guy sticks on quite nicely, but just slowly work it and work it and work it, and you'll get it off. After you've done that, you go in here and you've got to remove this locking clip. This clip lifts up. You can just see that lifts up on both sides, and you just slide it forward, and that'll come right off. Once you have the hose off, that locking clip will come right off. Then you have access to the actual screw that's in here that adjusts the pressure. So you can see looks like a bit of a gear there. It has you can get a wrench on it too, not that you have to. Once you get access to that, you just turn that thing with your fingers. You turn it in and it's going to increase your pressure. You back it out and it will decrease your pressure. The reason why I had to do this on this machine, I was down to 7 bars of pressure, and it took me 1.5 turns in to get that back up to 10.5, which is where I wanted to be. To check your pressure, if you haven't done it, before, you very simply take your, what I recommend is this the dual wall single serving filter basket. Put in the cleaning gasket here. Put that in your portafilter. Lock it in. Manually run the machine for about 20 seconds, and this will read out where your max pressure hits. You want it to be generally somewhere 10.5, 11, maybe even 11.5 when you have this in. It will drop. That will drop slightly when you're actually brewing your coffee. It has an opportunity there to release some of the pressure through the grinds, obviously. So if you set it around somewhere around 11, then you should end up hitting 9 or 9-ish when you're brewing. And you can always play around with that though. So once you have the machine open like this, you can brew it coffee. That's fine. Just be very careful. I think that goes without saying. But you can brew coffee and then come in here and adjust the connection, or adjust this that little screw in there some more, and dial it in exactly how you like it. Just remember every time to put that hose clamp back on. No need to touch the higher pressure hose clamp at any time. This is just feeds the pump, whereas this is the high pressure line that actually feeds the brew boiler. And no need to ever take this off unless you've got to replace the gasket on. Not hard to take off, but not necessary as part of the OPV adjustment. All right, so that's it for your overpressure valve that helps you set your brew pressure. Hopefully you found that helpful, along with the solenoid valve replacement. Good luck if you endeavor to take on either of these replacements yourself. Thanks for watching.